Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unknown Room episode 5. And I'm here with UFC heavyweight Juan Adams and his girl Michelle. How you guys doing today?
Good, Gucci. About to
Good.
watch.
and I heard you guys just moved into a new apartment recently, so congratulations on that.
Oh, that is false. Moved into a new apartment. She is not. She is not my roommate. My roommate is strength and conditioning coach, nutritionist, because he got tired of me getting too fat between fights.
Well, I mean, I seen you posted those. Seen you posted those UGG pillows, so hopefully you'll be able to break those out.
Oh yeah, we got UGG pillows on these ones. I got these little like wolf skin pillows right here. I got them from Target, so I don't think they're real wolf skin, but so Peter can lay off these nuts.
Uh, and we're gonna transition into PETA, and the best way to do that is I guess one of your training partners is part of our staff here at Unknown MMA, and he's the one that referenced me to you. Maybe not training partner, but I think he trains at Paradigm. But anyway, he told me you're a big food guy. So, what's your favorite places to eat in Houston?
Oh shit, man. That's too many. Like, I eat everywhere, bro. But I really like the chocolate bar. That's like my little hidden go to spot. See, she's shaking her head because she know I'm gonna get fat once I retire.
No.
but I like the chocolate bar a lot, and Chicken Kitchen actually like is one of the few places I can eat in camp and out of camp. It's pretty healthy. I love that place. Roostar is awesome. And there's a Pacific Poke right next to the Roostar in Richmond. Those are my two favorite. That's my two favorite spots right now. But that shit changes like every month.
And I heard in previous interviews, I don't know if it was something you said or Michelle, but maybe is there a cap on that weight limit we got going on right now? Not
Yeah,
get allowed to get past 295 or?
yeah. Well, last game it was 295, so this time we're trying to keep it below 290. Um, and I've got like after my like I get like a week right after the fight to do whatever I want. So that week's over tomorrow, and then by the end of the following week I'll be around 290. I don't even know what I weigh right now. We don't. I don't need that negativity in my life. Um, but we chilling. we It's 290, and eventually we're gonna try and cap it at 285 after the following fight, whenever that is.
And do you find the weight cuts to be difficult, especially because like I know you enjoy like your snacks or whatever. That's something you post a lot as well. But alongside with that, do you actually find it difficult to find people to train with that are actually your size?
Yeah, I don't have any training partners my actual size. We've got big guys. Some guys can get up to about 280 that I'll train with, and that works. That's fine. But it physically, my last two weight cuts haven't been really hard. We haven't really had like a super draining cut yet. Mentally, it's very hard. My first three or four were pretty tough, but after that, I stopped getting up because those first three or four, I got up to like 315, 320 afterwards. Now, after the fourth one, I stopped getting above 305. I capped it at 305 for up until my Contender Series fight. And then after Contender Series, I never really got above 300 again. So it's really all diet more so, and that's more than anything. Just maintaining that diet, that level of discipline. It's not really hard. It's just kind of a pain in the ass, and mentally, like I don't like it because I like eating what I like to eat. I like drinking. I can't do any of that when I'm trying to keep my weight down.
And speaking of the Contender Series, how exactly did you get on that show? Were they just like tracking LFA and they reached out to you, or was there like an interview process? How'd that happen?
Um, Honestly, I was just kind of chilling, and I had mentioned it to my manager before, and I was on LFA, and I was 2-0, so I was going into my third fight, and I was fighting a guy that was going into his 15th fight, or maybe it was his 16th fight. He was 8-7 at the time, so he was he was going into his 16th fight. And after I beat him, like it was real hard. Like he barely even wanted to fight me. So then nobody else really wanted to fight me. And then the next guy they recommended was a guy that had like 46 or 50 pro fights. And I was just like, y'all got me messed up. Like I have 3 trying to make me fight a guy with 50. And I was actually like all about taking it because I just wanted to fight. My manager was like, "No, you're not taking that fight." He wouldn't let me. So then Mick Maynard came down to a LFA show, and I was talking to him, and he was having like his housewarming party or something the next day, and he had said, "Hey, I'm thinking about bringing you on Contender Series. Why don't you come out? We're having some people over at the house later." And that was like unrelated. So I went out there and I was talking to him, and then my manager called him while we were out there, and we got all that settled. And a couple months later, I was on Contender Series.
That's kind of wild. And that first guy you were mentioning with the 15 fights, is that the fight where you had the romper? The romper?
Yeah, fight. That was a fun fight. We went out to Lake Charles, and it was weird, man. Like I got like propositioned by this gay dude at the weigh-in, and I was like, but he was on the slick with it, and it was real weird. He was just like, "Oh, you're a real big dude," and I was like, "Yeah," and then he came at me with like, "So, how much ass do you get doing this fighting?" And I knew where it was going, so I was like, "Man, I'm celibate," and I walked away, and I didn't want to talk to him anymore. It was real weird.
Okay. Let's get into the nickname, the Krakken. Where did it come from, and how did you get it?
It really came from because when I was in college, I drank Krakken rum a lot. You know how it is when you're in college. You're poor and you're just trying to get fucked up on whatever you can. So
Yeah.
Krakken was pretty strong, and it wasn't super expensive at the time. So me and my roommate were going through one handle of that and a handle of Sailor Jerry's a week. No, not Sailor Jerry, Blackheart. So it was one handle of Blackheart, one handle of Krakken every week. And then, like, once I graduated, I was down here, and one of the guys that I was helping get ready for a fight, he's like my big brother. We were chilling there, and he goes, "Dude, that should be your fight name," because I was drinking Krakken. He goes, "You love Krakken, and rolling with you is just arms and legs coming out of nowhere, this giant, insurmountable force. So let's do it." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, cool. That's a cool nickname." So I just ran with it.
It actually makes a lot more sense now that you explained it, because I think for some reason, I have no idea why, but like when I scroll down the timeline on Twitter, a lot of people think it's like Pirates of the Caribbean related. And I have no idea why they would just think that, but if you scroll down like through Twitter and you're like asking people why they think your name is that, that's what they think. So it's good that I asked, because I guess we'll finally put the Pirates of the Caribbean thing to bed.
Yeah, man, like those are cool movies, but they got kind of whack after the third one. I don't fuck with that franchise anymore.
I only seen 2, so I can't even tell you. Um, let's go straight into these questions about a certain guy out there that you might want to fight, that you might have made known public on Instagram, Twitter, and other media outlets. There's a guy right now that a lot of fans believe doesn't deserve the spotlight that he's receiving, maybe co-main event slots and other things like that, where there's a lot of guys that have been fighting for a long time with, some would argue, actual skill. How do you feel about Greg Hardy in the UFC right now? Because I know you have that hashtag going on with a
Yeah,
lot of support from fans.
yeah. Hashtag fuck Greg Hardy is gonna stay on there. I do it once a week just to keep the appearance up. I hate him. Uh, I actually contemplating walking around Toronto in a dress to, incentivize him to fight me since he likes fighting women, and they put up better fights than his last 2 opponents did because they feed him cans. Um, I hate him pretty much, like plain and simple. It started off, I was just kind of indifferent, but then people kept comparing me to him and then asking like, why don't you fight him? Like, it's not that I don't want to fight him. I've asked to fight him multiple times. He's a bitch, and his management company's scared of me, and the UFC won't give me the fight. So it's like, all right, if y'all just gonna keep asking me, like my whole attitude towards him is fuck this man. I hate him.
When did you first realize you wanted that fight? Was it ever since you found out he started doing MMA? Was it ever since he made his entrance to the UFC, or was it since since you
Right.
found out he did what he did?
Honestly, when I found out he did what he did, I really like. Technically, he's innocent because he was never convicted of it. So that's like I use that to really just kind of get more people on board because I really want to fight him, and I think he's a bitch for doing that. One, but two, like he's also been arrested for cocaine, and it's just like, dude, you had every opportunity in life to be successful. You just keep pissing it away, and I wanted to fight him when I found out he was doing MMA. It was right around time of like my second amateur fight or something like that. So I asked for it then. They're like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, we're not going to fly somebody out here for an amateur fight. I was like, all right, cool, whatever. Then when he went with LFA, he did his last amateur fight with LFA. I was like, hey, he's talking about going pro. I've only got 3 pro fights. Like, let's make it happen. And they wouldn't do it. It just didn't happen because we both got Contender Series slots. So then when I found out they were bringing him back to Contender Series, I was like, oh, well, we can make that my opponent. I'll wait. And they're like, no. So then when both of us got UFC contracts, I was like, yeah, I'll fight him now. And they still wouldn't let it happen. So, I keep asking. I don't think it's ever going to happen because he's a bitch. But I'm about that life. I want all. I've said it all. I want to fight every heavyweight on the roster. I don't care. So, that's where I stand. I put my cards on the table, waiting for him to take the call.
And I do have a theory on why I think the fight makes sense, and we'll get into that in a couple seconds. But first, I want to know if the fight did happen right now. What do you think beating him would actually do for you?
It really wouldn't do anything for my career, like trajectory wise. I think even the UFC knows he's never going to be worth a shit. I mean, his career is going to be remembered as a publicity stunt. But it would give me satisfaction of just beating him because, like, his face just looks so punchable. I don't know if it's his stupid ass haircut or his like ugly ass patchy beard. I don't know what it is. Or the fucking oh no, I also don't like that he shaves lines into his eyebrows. Like kind of gay ass Chris Brown 2015 shit is that? Like you know, so his face is just like super punchable, and his voice, like even his voice bothers me. Like it sounds like he just finished sucking dick, and like you got that ass. Like what's up with that? But on top of all that, for my career, it really wouldn't do much. It would just, prove that I'm better than him, which is something I already know, most people already know. And then it would, give me more money, give me a little bit more exposure, give me a couple thousand followers on Twitter.
And I think you kind of explained it, but part of my theory on why it makes sense is, I mean, although you guys are very different, your career like trajectories kind of tell a story itself on why the fight should happen, because there's been so many times when you guys have been in the same organization at the same time or at the same place at the same time, and it just never happened. And um, they give him, these slots where like a lot of high profile fighters would be fighting at. And I think that, I mean, that would be a good slot for you fighting against him on whatever card that they would put that on. And as well, I don't think they really want to give him somebody right now that's like top 5, top 10. And I think, the skill set, some would say matches up, but I think it would be a good matchup. One of the ones that you could do now versus later. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, because later, I'm getting better each fight. He's not. He looks the same as he did his first amateur fight. So not really super concerned with it. It's something I don't see happening. I hope it does, but I'm not holding my breath for it. If they give me another offer, I'm gonna take it. because I don't make as much as he does per fight, so I actually need to fight frequently to, maintain my lifestyle. But yeah, if they give me that fight, great. If not, I'm not really tripping about it.
And I'm gonna get into what we were talking about earlier as well, because yeah, you guys have been at LFA together. You guys have both been on the Contender series, and you guys are both in the UFC now. So you would be able to answer the question that a lot of people wonder too, because LFA fights and UFC fights are, completely different as far as exposure, as far as production value. But when it comes to being inside the cage and the actual level of opponents, like, what do you think the biggest difference is between fighting in a promotion like LFA versus the UFC?
Honestly, skill-wise, it's not that big of a jump. The mentality is a lot different. In LFA, some guys, that's the height of their career. They know they're not going to be in the UFC, so they're just like, oh, I'm fighting on TV, right? And most of those are still the way LFA does things. They go to different places, and a lot of those fighters are local, so they're fighting not that far from home, and it's still, they made it. That's their peak right there. Um, the biggest difference for me is that the guys that I fought in LFA, it's not that they weren't technically good. It's just that they would just take any fight at any point in their career, so they had more fights. And then on top of that, they weren't as hungry, so to speak. The guys that I fought anyway, because I feel like for them it was more just a check type deal, or they're just going out there to see if they still got it. Whereas, in the UFC, everyone is hungry. Everyone is good. Everyone has that. The baseline skill of the UFC is a little bit higher than it's going to be at LFA, and it's different levels to it. Everyone in the UFC is hungry. Everyone in the UFC has a bigger incentive to win, so they're going to go out there and they're going to fight a little bit harder. In LFA, unless those guys have aspirations of going to the UFC, they're not really fighting as hard. They're getting by that they're technically better than whoever they fought before, or they've got, they're just going out there to say they went out there. Whereas, but your young guys in LFA, of course, they're hungry. They're hungry. They're going for it. They know that that's their last step before going to a Bellator, a Contender Series, a One, a Risen, a UFC. But your veterans in LFA, they kind of know, like, hey, yeah, I'm not going to the UFC. They're just going out there to put on the shows, so to speak.
And I know that you mentioned too in interviews before that your training process is kind of rigorous. You have those, I think you said Monday, Wednesday, Friday are like your easy days, but when you explained it, it didn't seem easy at all. So I just wondered, like, does your training regimen change as well when you got up to the UFC, or do you find yourself still training as hard as you did now as before? Like, what changed training wise?
Um, the for me the biggest part training wise was mental. And it's different. When I was training before, I was still working multiple jobs. I still didn't know if fighting was going to be my career. I didn't know if it was going to be my lifestyle. I didn't know if it was going to be the way I made a living. So yeah, I would have liked for it to be. I was hungrier, so I wouldn't say that I trained harder then, but at when you're working, 2 or 3 jobs and you don't know when the next time you're going to be able to train is, you're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning to make it to the gym for 5 a.m. and you have to mentally get yourself to a different point than when you're doing it full time. So when I was waking up at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m., getting to the gym for 5 a.m., I didn't know when my next workout was going to come. I was still going to find time to do something, but to mentally get yourself up and going at that time requires a whole lot more mentally to be put into the workout. Whereas now I get up in the morning and it's like it's part of my routine now. So I'm not the physical output might still be the same, but the urgency and the mentality, it's a struggle to do that every time for every session. And you don't, it's not possible. Most people can't do that. I can't do it. That's why I have, all these different coaches to motivate me and get me to that point for those workouts. And that's the biggest difference. Is like it's part of my routine now, and I wake up and I train. I know I'm getting minimum 2 workouts in a day. Whereas before it was like, oh, if this is if this is all I get to do today, I need to get as much out of this right now as I can. Whereas now I'm like, oh, I'll just get it in the next one. And it's hard, that's a hard mentality to train with, and it's hard to really be successful with that, which is why, I pride my coaches on, or I'm very happy with my coaches because they get me there more often than not.
And with all of that training and all the time you put into fight camps, all the time that you put in waking up those early hours, coming off of your last fight, do you have an opponent that you have in mind for your next fight, or right now are you just focused on training and just waiting for like a good offer to come by?
I'm waiting for any offer to come by. I don't have anyone in mind because my mentality is this, I'm not in a position to call someone out after a loss. That's just how I feel about it. If I was winning, it's one thing, but when you lose, you take what you can get. And, so all I'm doing right now is, even though I do feel that I won that fight, I can't dwell on it. And it was an off day for me. It wasn't my best performance. There was a lot of stuff going on backstage that I would have liked for not to happen, but it did. So now my whole focus and my whole mentality is to be so good that even on my off day, I can mop the floor with an opponent like that. And so that's what we're doing. We've added some things, and starting this week, I'm back in the gym full time, ready to go right back at it.
All right. So, I'm looking forward to your next fight to see what that looks like. But right now, let's get into some social media questions that I have for you because scrolling down your Instagram, you're probably one of the more entertaining people on the roster, I would say for sure. What aspect of your social media do you think garners the most attention? Like, what theme do you usually go for where people are responding to the most?
Most people really respond to my Instagram stories very well. Just because I'm always talking, like I just talk whatever comes to my mind, some shit that's funny, you know. Um, One very like central theme has just been kind of I've changed the wording of it, but I used to call like shady people Decepticons, right? So I'd always point out like really shady behavior, and it's like, how stupid do you think I am? Decepticon can't trick me. Uh, that got really good attention. Um, Now, like most of it, that gets a lot of attention when I talk about like lead pipe. That one gets a lot of good attention, and then the food stories are always pretty funny. People love the food stuff. Um, but like it's just real cheeky, tongue-in-cheek type stuff that most guys like. And I'm also completely comfortable making fun of myself. I make fun of my ego. It's funny. I make fun of myself all the time, and I'm cool with that. And you know, um, I'm a sarcastic dude too. So when people say stupid shit to me, my responses usually get a lot of really good attention. Also,
Michelle, do you have a favorite post on there on the Instagram? One that sticks out in your mind?
the selfies.
What do you mean?
She likes my selfies.
Oh yeah, they're great.
I'm fine as fuck.
Oh my god. No, really sticks out too much because a lot of them are all a mess. Why is that right in my face? You could have it on. You like right here.
All right. we'll jump into these last set of questions. The last set of questions are going to be at your teammates at Paradigm. First question comes from a fan. He wants to know this one that was actually featured in another interview, but for some reason they want to know what you think about this as well. Who has the best fashion sense at Paradigm? And it says colorful rompers not included.
Oh shit. That's a tough one. I would give that one a toss up between. Oh no, I think Cal. Cal always looks fresh. Cal Diaz, he's always looking fly. And then after that, there's like echelons to it. So like the top tier, you got Cal Diaz, Sebastian. He's always fresh. Me, of course, but like I exclude myself because that's not fair to everyone else. My shit's always popping, and then we have, I don't know, I think Colin's a pretty well dressed cat, and then Breland, my boo, that's my man up there.
Which one of your teammates is the most competitive with you while training? Would you say?
Definitely Sebastian, because like we'll be going and like I see him, I can't tell if he's serious sometimes or he's just trying to fuck with me, but he'll like start swinging hard or start like talking and like moving a lot more. I'm just like, what the fuck you doing, man? I'm just not hard sparring today. I don't want to do this. So definitely Sebastian. He's the one that's in there with me the most too.
Do you have any pranksters that are at Paradigm, like people that are always pulling tricks or whatever when you guys are training? Is that guy you? If it is, and what are some of the funniest things that you can remember happening during training?
Tony, like he's like 15, 16. He's always messing with people. I'm only there like twice a week now because I'm only there like twice a week. So, but when I am there, like I don't really prank a lot. I say a lot of dumb shit. Like when we're doing our team talks, I always make it sexual. Like anytime they say something, I make it sexual. Or I fart. I fart a lot too, and that's funny. That's funny to me.
Do you have? Do you which one of your training partners do you think is not like necessarily a teacher's pet, but which somebody that's always trying to get the most reps, watching the most film, somebody that you could see like turning into a coach one day?
Oh, either Colin or Dulani. Both of them. I don't know if they're like always trying to get the most reps, but they're the ones that always talk. Like anytime we show a technique, they got something to say on there. So one of those two. I don't really like. I'm like I don't want to talk here. I want to get my reps and I want to go home. Like, I'm tired. This is my third. Because when I'm there, it's usually like my third or fourth session of the day, and I'm just like, can we just do this and leave? I'm so tired right now. I don't want to do this shit.
And one last question before you get out of there. This is what I ask every single person that's been on the show so far. If you get your first UFC performance bonus or fight of the night, whatever, what's the first thing you're gonna buy with it?
Shit. I'm gonna pay off some of these student loans. That's the first thing. And then I'm actually saving. I want to buy a helicopter one day.
What?
Yeah, I want to buy but I only want to buy it so I can fuck with people.
Oh my God. No, you're not.
Like,
no, you're not.
I want to be flying around.
No, you're not.
And then when somebody says some shit to me, like one day, I just want to fly it over their house at like 3 a.m. and just fuck with them.
I thought we were over this.
Nah, it's not my ex. It's just people in general. I'm gonna fuck with everybody. Yeah, that's the goal. Helicopter.
What would you prefer he would get with the performance bonus, Michelle?
She wants an Audi. I'm gonna buy her. She wants a car.
It's talking about for you, not for me.
Oh, for me?
Stuff for you, not me. Probably, I don't know, a car.
I have a car. Oh my gosh, she shitting on my whip right
No,
now.
honestly, not really even just buy anything. Because experiences, more like go to places that you haven't been, go on a cruise. You know, just to be able to enjoy life, pretty much.
All right. That's a good answer. And there we have it, everybody. Juan Adams, episode 5 of The Unknown Room. Juan, thank you for joining me, and Michelle as well. Thank you, guys.
Later.
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Shocked if this fight went the distance?
Unknown MMA. Everything you don't know about MMA.